Imagine this. You spend half your life serving your country, doing everything right. You finally get a break, your last deployment, and all you can think about is coming home to peace. A campfire by the creek, the land your father left you, the land you grew up on. But when I finally came home, tired and ready to rest, I didn't recognize the entrance to my own damn property. There was a paved road, mailboxes, flags, and 35 homes I never approved, sitting smack on top of my land like I didn't exist. If you love HOA Karen stories, like and subscribe for more videos like this. I was deployed overseas for 6 months, part of a rotation that was supposed to be quiet. Before I left, I made sure everything was locked down. Gates closed, trail cams running, fencing checked. My land, 46 acres of Texas countryside just outside Borne, had been in my family since 1969. My dad bought it after Vietnam, and we'd built everything by hand. A dam on the creek, a fire pit, even a little dock for fishing. It wasn't just dirt, it was legacy. When I landed back in the US in early 2024, I drove straight from the base to the ranch, hadn't even unpacked my gear. That's when the nightmare started. The front fence was gone, paved sidewalk in its place, fresh mulch beds, stamped concrete, and a sign that made my stomach drop. Welcome to Hilltop Heights, Phase 3, HOA Community. I froze. Thought maybe I took a wrong turn, but no, I double checked the GPS. Same coordinates, same road, same old trees. Except now, a 3-bedroom colonial was standing where my dad's old pecan tree used to be. I counted 35 homes, new, fresh paint, retaining walls. A HOA maintained trail wrapping around the edge of the old creek, my creek, where we used to catch bass and cook under the stars. I walked into the developer's trailer with dirt still on my boots. The saleswoman smiled like I was a buyer. Looking to tour a model? No, I said. This land was never for sale. She blinked. You what? I own this property, and none of this was authorized. That's when Karen showed up, HOA clipboard queen herself, and started talking like I was the problem. Sir, these homes were approved months ago. Everything's filed. Maybe check with the county before accusing anyone. So I did. I went straight to the county assessor's office, and guess what? They'd used the wrong parcel number from an old archived plat map. They built 35 homes on land I still legally owned, and they thought I was bluffing. Big mistake. Because I wasn't just home, I was ready for war. I didn't shout, I didn't lose my temper. I just started digging, the legal kind. The first place I went was the Kendall County Recorder's Office. I requested every deed, plat, and transfer involving my land from the last 50 years. It took 2 hours and a patient clerk, but we finally found the records. My parcel, number 4821201, had never changed hands. Not once. Not to a developer. Not to the county. Not to a trust. It was still under my name and the trust my father set up before he died. So how the hell did they build 35 houses on it? That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. Right next to my parcel was a plot number off by 1 digit, number for 48.21210. The developer had purchased that one, a 6-acre triangle just across the creek, but their plans showed roads, power lines, and sewer infrastructure stretching well into my 46 acres. I filed a fraud alert notice immediately with the county and requested an emergency stop work order. The clerk raised an eyebrow. Sir, you're saying they developed over your land without consent? No, I said. I'm saying they didn't even buy the land they built on. Within 24 hours, I had a real estate attorney from San Antonio on retainer. We reviewed the permits, and everything came together like a slow-motion disaster. Some junior planner misread the parcel overlay, and nobody cross-checked it. They paved, poured, and built. 35 homes, all sitting on a legally untransferred title. I was still walking around in boots from Afghanistan, and I was holding a file that could financially destroy an entire HOA. So I did what any smart man would do. I froze their world. I contacted the utility companies, showed them the deed and map. Within a week, electric and water work orders were put on hold, pending investigation. Then I filed for an emergency civil injunction through my lawyer to prevent any home sales from closing. Realtors panicked. One tried to call me directly. Another emailed my lawyer begging for amicable resolution. But Karen? She doubled down. She left a flyer in my mailbox, the kind written in bold red letters. This man is trying to sabotage our peaceful community. Don't let a bitter land dispute ruin your dream home. That's when I knew this wouldn't be solved with court alone. They thought I was bluffing, but they had no idea what else I had control over. Because the dam my dad built, that old one across the creek, it was still intact, and I still held the keys. The thing about my dad, he believed in self-reliance and redundancy. That's why back in the late 80s, he built a concrete reinforced flood control dam on the south end of our ranch. Not some rickety thing with boards and luck. This was a full-grade structure with an iron sluice gate, an emergency spillway, and a manual crank system locked in a reinforced shed. We never needed it for irrigation. We used it for control, and now it was the one thing they didn't know I had. See, the developers built those 35 homes in a low-lying section just north of our natural runoff basin. My dad had deliberately left that land untouched for decades because during storms, the basin soaked up everything. It wasn't swampland, just fragile enough to never be meant for dense housing. And now they'd paved it, leveled trees, cut drainage paths toward the HOA's common road. So when they ignored the cease and desist, when Karen posted online that I was making threats and harassing a thriving community, when the developer's lawyer sent me a snide letter offering $25,000 for a clean exit agreement, I drove to the shed, took out the padlock, unsealed the wheel, and cracked the floodgate just 2 turns. Not a full breach, just enough to let the water talk. Over the next 72 hours, it rained. Not a lot, just enough to do what nature does best, remember the land. By Sunday morning, homeowners were posting photos in their little Facebook group, pictures of soggy lawns, flooded driveways, rising water lines behind their 500 new builds. Karen posted, "Does anyone know why our storm drains aren't working? This whole area was supposed to have runoff management." They didn't, because the runoff system was never designed for 35 houses, and it sure wasn't designed to handle water that wasn't supposed to be there. By Monday, 6 basements had water damage. 1 garage had standing water up to the tires. A pair of engineers were sent out by the builder and couldn't figure it out until one of them spotted the concrete culvert on my land and asked who managed the flow. I met them in person, shook hands, and said plainly, "That's mine, always has been." The engineer blinked. "Do you manage the release?" I nodded. "Based on what's best for the land, not illegal housing projects." He didn't say a word, but the builder did. They called my lawyer before noon and begged to negotiate. And Karen, she posted one last time before vanishing off the HOA board. This entire thing could have been avoided if someone had just asked permission. She was right. Too bad they built an empire on stolen soil without asking the man who owned the floodgate. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to raise a fist. All I needed was a title deed, the county survey maps, and a dam with a memory. Once the HOA realized I wasn't bluffing, once water literally started reclaiming the land they stole, the lawyers came crawling. But it was too late. See, I had already filed a formal complaint with the county zoning board, complete with aerial drone photos, historic runoff data, and statements from local engineers. The moment they saw that the houses were built on what's considered an unpermitted floodplain, everything changed. The board froze all future construction, issued emergency stop work orders on the final 6 homes, and opened an investigation into the developer's permitting. That's when the truth unraveled fast. The developer used forged runoff studies. They skipped environmental impact reviews. And worst of all, the HOA, spearheaded by Karen, had pressured inspectors to look the other way during construction to avoid delays. It turned criminal. The county referred the case to the state attorney general's office. A grand jury subpoenaed internal HOA emails. By July, both the developer and Karen were named in a civil lawsuit and a pending criminal inquiry for fraud, falsified records, and trespassing. As for my case, it wrapped up fast. The judge ruled the land had been illegally developed and issued a $1.9 million settlement in my favor, not just for trespass, but environmental damage, water diversion interference, and emotional distress. The HOA's insurance had to cover part, but the rest? Paid out of pocket by the builder, and yes, Karen. Her Audi got sold. Her house, one of the flooded ones, went into foreclosure. She moved out quietly one night under the cover of shame. The remaining residents, they're still there. But with cracked roads, waterlogged lawns, and rising HOA dues to fix what should have never been built, they've gone quiet. Nobody calls me a troublemaker anymore. Now, when I walk the edge of my lake, boots in the mud, dog at my heel, I see fresh signs. Private ranch, no access, trespassers will be prosecuted, and they listen. Because when you mess with a soldier's land, when you build without asking, lie without shame, and flood your own future, the dam doesn't break, it remembers.